All right, another question that I get all the time is, Jake, how do you clean these things? Well, the intent and the purpose of the tool is for roof coating contractors to not feel like they had to spend, I don't want to say hours, but they don't want to spend labor having their guys, because we pay work comp on every, we should be paying work comp on every hour that our laborers are working. So I like to think that guys use these for a job and then they pitch them. However, there are lots of guys that do have success cleaning these things. So there's a couple things you could do. If you're using acrylics, you're just going to get a 5-gallon pail of water. You're going to put this in there and you're just going to draw it, get it all the way up, and then go back down as many times till you feel like you have the tube clean. Also, this little black cap, we have chosen to leave this friction fit, which means that you can pull this all the way out. And you can get into the little, if you really wanted to geek out, you could get in there to all the little packings and pull them apart and unscrew them. There's a wing nut, a tension wing nut in there that you can take that out and clean them up with water, and you can sing to them, sing them a lullaby, and you can really nurse and baby these things along. A lot of guys tend to do that. I wouldn't do that in my cruise because I don't want to spend that time, but some people do it, and it works very well. So the seals are high quality seals in there. So, but I don't want to overpromise on them. After about maybe, I had one guy call me one time and he was a little irritated because his seals broke. And I said, well, how long have you been using it? He was like on his 10th job. So that's a little bit beyond the scope of what this tool was for. So hopefully you'll find a happy medium, and hopefully you'll find that the tool is so affordable and it pays for itself so quickly that you don't feel like you have to have these things clean. After you do clean them, you might want to put some Vaseline in them. My favorite lubricant is called Super Lube, and you can actually get it in like a little aerosol can. That works really pretty well. If you're using solvent-based things like urethanes or silicones, it does get a little bit more challenging. You're going to want to flush the tube, but that stuff is really expensive. And then what do you do with that wasted thinner? So guys that are spraying silicone, they know this tension well, because they have to clean out all their parts and their lines and their guns and tips and all that stuff. So they're used to that. But again, the intent of this was after you use it, you can generally nurse it for a day or two, and then, let's pitch these things and let's get something new. But if you are on a solvent job, you're going to want to get your mineral spirits, or most manufacturers will actually tell you what will thin out the material. So it's often some sort of a mineral spirits, something like that. Urethane, they'll oftentimes use a solvent called xylene. And again, these are kind of expensive things to buy. So if you do have it handy, you can go ahead and flush that tube. I don't recommend leaving the seals in that solvent for too long. I mean, the seals are very resilient, but if you're leaving them in there overnight, that's going to start to break down the membranes in there. So I would clean it, and then I would let it air out. I wouldn't leave it in the solvent. But again, if you want to be super patient and clean these suckers, I think that you'll be really happy with them, and they will continue to serve you. Lastly, we get questions a lot about, well, what's the lubrication like? We've done a lot of work on the roof in my own cruise, and one of the things that I've learned is that the best lubricant actually ends up being the mastics that you're using. So say you're going to go to lunch, I might recommend drawing up a tube of wet stuff, making sure that tube is nice and wet, and keeping it wet during lunch. Now, obviously, there's atmospheric things. How hot is it? Is it acrylic? Is it a silicone? So you'll have to do some trial and error. But by and large, I like to try to keep the tube as wet as possible throughout the day for as long as I can. So those hopefully are helpful to extend the life of your roof tubes. Thank you.